The next speaker will be Yuri Radchenko. We all are very grateful having you, Yuri, in these hard days for the Ukraine in general and for Kharkiv in particular. I mentioned that because Professor Yuri Radchenko is the director of the Center for Interethnic Relations Research in Eastern Europe in Kharkiv, in Ukraine, an associate professor at the Institute of Oriental Studies and International Relations in Kharkiv Collegium in Kharkiv. He is currently working on his project, Andriy Melnik, the OUN leader's life history and the memory of him and his movement. Yuri was a postgraduate student at the Department of History of Ukraine at the Karazin Kharkiv National University. His dissertation dealt with the Nazi genocide of the Ukrainian Jews in the military administrated area, 1941-1943. And he has been the recipient of many, many fellowships in the United States, in Germany, in Israel. Yuri has recently finished his monograph titled Hilfspolizei, Self-Government and the Holocaust in Ukrainian, Russian, Belarusian borderland, Motivation, Identity, Collective Portrait and Memory is forthcoming. His academic interests include the history of the Holocaust, Ukrainian-Jewish relations in 1920s, 1940s, collaboration with the Nazis in Eastern Europe, and the history of right radical movement in Europe in the 20s and the 40s. Yuri's talk is titled The Collaboration Between the Organization of Ukrainian Nationalists, OUN, and the German SD during the Holocaust in Drohobycz, the case of Julian Temnik. Yuri, the floor is yours.
Good evening, ערב טוב. אני לא יכול להשתמש מצלמה. אפשר לעשות משהו זאת? Can you help me? I cannot open it.
Tom or Noam could help Yuri? Yes, you are seeing you.
Oh, finally. Thank you so much. I hope I also have 30 minutes for my presentation. And you didn't mention that my new project dedicated to Ukrainian Karaite and Muslim relations in Ukraine during Nazi occupation. Thank you for invitation. תודה רבה שבאתם. I must say that this text I have not present any time before on public and in Zoom and not in Zoom, at least. So it will be some new step from general history to history from below, to personal history, to history of biography, because I speak today about one activist of OUN, M, not B, in Ukraine during Nazi occupation. I think who got to know this issue and who read this new issue, and I'm very thankful that they have option to publish my research in Moreshet, can go and to drink some coffee, because it will be 20, maybe more, maybe less boring minutes about his biography. But I think from perspective of such biographies, we can speak about apparatus of extermination of Jews during Nazi occupation, and way how collaboration, what collaboration on different levels played on this level. And I must say thank you so much to Omer that at least he mentioned that war is happening now in Ukraine. And because from the beginning I have not heard any word about this. And we must remember that this war can erase anything, all cities, what you and me will and mention today, unfortunately. And I must say that I say it first of all for me that we must be aware about language, what we use now while speaking about such sensitive questions, because all these issues, what we discussed today, can be used by Putin Russian propaganda. And this war, what is happening now in Ukraine, when people die every minute. When we speak now, people are dying now, unfortunately. So in summary of 1999-92, Вести комбатанта, the B-month journal of the war veterans in Ukrainian diaspora in the West, published another issue among various sections of memories of soldiers, officers of Ukrainian army, in German army on World War II. And one of this biography or eloges was memory of Julian Temnik, a Galician native who comrades in arms from various units in which he spared him no compliments. So what is a quote what was written there? In Toronto, an age of 96, 12 years, Julian Temnik, the last of the Mohicans of the struggle for Ukrainian liberation, the Ukrainian Galician army, the Ukrainian military organization of the OUN, Organization of Ukrainian Nationalists, and the first Ukrainian division of Ukrainian National Army, has passed away. The funeral attached an idle quote. The funeral was attended by many guests, including numerous representatives of Brotherhood of former soldiers of SS Galician Division and of another veterans organization known as Ukrainian Riflemen's Association. Temnik was buried in the Mount of Peace Cemetery. Also, various publications have paid substantial attention of the aspects of his biography. Very little has been written about his life during World War II. The quote one in connection of Temnik biography, it's a quote. During the World War II, he served heavy anti-craft artillery command in the Ukrainian division. The Ukrainian division means division SS Galicia. Another biography reads as follows. In 1943, Julian Temnik volunteered to serve in Ukrainian division. And 4 months after he married, May 6, to Daria Horodivska, he began aircraft artillery training. He became commander of the 3rd Battery. Over time, he attended courses for artillery officers and became the head of the staff unit in artillery company. End of quote. These accounts say nothing about the period between 1941 and 1943. During this time, Temnik served in SD in Drohobycz, taking part in the extermination of the Jews of Drohobycz and Samber. However, the small amount has been written and about his role in the Holocaust. It mainly is dedicated to the activity of SD, this region, and crimes of Sturmscharführer Paul Bär. So in my research, I'm trying to say that what was the Julian Temnik life before the war, what was the political forces that shaped his world view up to the onset of his work in the SD in Drohobycz, to what extent did he participate in the Holocaust, and Temnik is known that to take part in the persecution of the Jews where he had lived before the war. So did the victims include anyone he knew or any friends from before the war? And what has happened to him after the war? So it's this my presentation, this text will try to answer to these questions and maybe more. I do not have any specific presentation for today, but I will share a couple photos with you and then hope you will see it. Just inform me, do you see it or not? Okay. Okay. Can you see it? Yeah. Same as something.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much. So you see here one of his official biography from Ukrainian diaspora. So it's written in Ukrainian. A lot of you have roots from Ukraine, and I see it's you can be like a native in this language, I'm sure. So let's speak about his official and unofficial biography. So on June 3rd, 1986, like many other figures, future members of OUN activists, Temnik was born to a peasant family at Berezhnitsa in the Samber district, not far from his place of his activity during Nazi occupation. His parents, Ivan and Rosalia, were able to give their children and were able to give their children an education, and Julian graduated from the gymnasium in Samber. Temnik was brought up in his spirit in Ukrainian patriotism and nationalism, we could call it different way. And the struggle at the age of 18, he wanted to serve in Legion of Ukrainian Siege Riflemen, Українські січові стрільці, also called Legion Українських січових стрільців, USS, which was part of Ukrainian Hungarian army. However, he wasn't accepted due the unit's limit of 2,000 soldiers. Ultimately, Temnik was conscripted into a regular unit of Austro-Hungarian army, and between October 1st, 1914 and January 10, 1915, he underwent basic training and formed at the end of training until July 25, 1917. He fought against Russian Imperial Army, its official name, Russian Imperial Army, on the East Front. On July 27, 1917, like many other soldiers of the Austro-Hungarian army, he was taken prisoner by the Russians and was jailed in a camp in Tsaritsyn. It's funny, along with Yevgeny Konovalets and Andriy Melnik. He escaped on December 18, 1917, and the future leaders of OUN and a number of additional comrades who escaped Russian imprisonment a few days later on Catholic Christmas Eve. It's December 27. And he followed Temnik's tracks, and the Russian army was already almost complete and destroyed by this time, so they didn't have any, I would say, problems. He and other members of future members of Ukrainian nationalist movement to reach first of all Kursk, and after to get to Kyiv, because at that time, after Bolshevik putsch, almost all structures of Russian army and Russian state structures were destroyed, as you know, and Bolsheviks tried to do something new one. It can be assumed that Temnik close relations with Melnik, future leader of OUN, and Konovalets, another future leader of OUN, the first leader of OUN at least, had influenced his subsequent decision to join Melnik's fraction when the OUN split in 1940. Following these events, Temnik used the experience that he acquired while in Austrian army or in the Hungarian army in the service of the Ukrainian enterprises and the new projects like Western Ukrainian People's Republic, by joining Ukrainian Galician army, so Західноукраїнська Народна Республіка and Українська Галицька армія, in which he served as commander of 13th Regiment of the 7th Lviv Brigade. In this capacity, he fought against the Polish army, and was injured in the battle in the defense of Przemysl. Later, he took part in the Galician army Chortkiv offensive. After this collapse of Western Ukrainian People's Republic, he and the transfer of Eastern Galicia and Volhynia to Polish control, Temnik fled to Czechoslovakia in a few persecutions, but few years later, he came back to Galicia in 1946, and he worked like an agronomist engineer, and was unknown when he joined the OUN, and where he was officially a member of OUN by 1939, because this organization was created in 1929, and it's very hard to find exactly date when he joined. But anyway, we know this he became member, and so on. On the onset of World War II, some local OUN activists launched a series of uprisings in Galicia and Volhynia under leadership of Lopatynsky, Volodymyr Tymchy, and uncoordinated these visits with the leaders of movement. No, in this article I wrote this uncoordinated, but it's a question: how was this coordinated, not coordinated with, first of all, with Melnik, with leader of OUN at that time, and with the Germans. The OUN partisans conquered settlements and established their rules there. At the same time, OUN fighters frequently attacked the Polish and Jewish population. But this attacks had some specifics. We can discuss it later. We don't have time, unfortunately, for this. When the German forces entered Sambir in September 1939, Temnik worked on the setting up Ukrainian-owned police there. He succeeded inside the police archive, Polish police archive, where own men searched for a list of Polish intelligence personnel who had fought against Ukrainian nationalists. And he wrote quite interesting report to his leaders or not own leaders. It wasn't split before 1994. It was one organization, United Organization own. Well, this is an interesting report. We will not quote it. When the German forces left Sambir in 1939, Temnik also appears to have left, returning to region when he was tried only in summer 1941. So it's a big question what he was doing between this, since autumn 1939 until spring, summer 1941. Probably he was located in Krakow, somewhere over there, where was the center of activity of organization of Ukrainian nationalists and another Ukrainian political activist during that time. The outbreak of the war between Germany and Soviet Union on June 22nd, 1941 provided a long it was Melnik group of activists in the occupied Ukraine territories with the window of different and many opportunities. In summer 1941, in the footstep of the German army, Melnikites and Barderites began the establishment of police force and self-government in the occupied territories. The organization took part in pogroms in the summer 1941 in Galicia, Volhynia, and Bukovina. The exact date of which Temnik returned to Drohobycz is unknown. It's assumed that this occurred after German army reached the town on July 1st, 1941. During this period, the town contained approximately 2,000 of Jews who had become victims of the pogrom and mass murder. Beginning of the summer 1941, local security police and SD, Sicherheitsdienst forces under the authority of SD units in Lviv, Drohobycz, KDS Lemberg, operated in the Drohobycz. Their commander was Sturmbannführer Hans Block. Security police and SD units played an important role in the Holocaust in different parts of Ukraine. In the Gouvernement, Bucha's example, what was mentioned by Omer, in the Reichskommissariat of Ukraine in Kiev, in the areas of military government, like in Kharkiv. I wrote one article a few years, 10 years ago about this. Between 1941 and 1942, many Melnikites served in the ranks of Einsatzgruppen, police units, and SD. Some like Oleg Sababiy, if you want, I can share you an article about this guy as well, also managed to serve in German military apparatus. Many of those who would later serve as the soldiers of Ukrainian Legion of Self-Defense, Ukrainische Zelchus Legion, served in SD. For example, military officers like Sotnik, Katarchuk, Yakimenko, and so on, we will not mention. Many guys who served in SD took part in the Holocaust and also persecuted Ukrainians who opposed different political views, such as abandoned rights. For example, in SD Stanislav, in which a Melnikite named Shcherbatchuk served, participated in the murder of local Jews. Mother War. Between September 12th and 15, 1941, a group of Banderites, including Stepan Bandera brother Andrei, was arrested there, and he was sent to Auschwitz. The exact date of which Temnik began serving SD is unknown. I have not found such information. However, in his personal SS file indicates that in 1942 he was already on active duty. I will share you this file probably, so I'll try to do it. Can you see different file now or not?
No, you need to stop the share and start it again.
Okay, I will try to do it. A new demonstration. Okay, I see. So now you see it, yeah?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. In 1942, as you see here, we can find a lot of interesting information about his identity, about his how he represented himself, his religion, and so on and so on. Knowledge of Sprachen, languages. And we see that he was a Catholic, Greek Catholic, and he spoke German, Ukrainian, Polish, and Russian, by the way, because his experience probably during his 1917 in Russia. He appears to have learned Russian, I think, during this period, and on March 3rd, 1943, Temnik got married and left his position with SD and began to serve in SS Galician division, where on January 1st, 1943, he received the rank of Obersturmführer. Temnik served in this unit apparently with the same rank until the surrender of Germany in May 1941. What crimes did Temnik take part during the period of German occupation? So the testimonies of Holocaust survivors from Sambo indicated that he actively participated at least a few events of extermination of local Jews. One of such events occurred in Samber between September 4 and 6, 1942. According to this census, and Buchach was a town, according to this census of 1931, Buchach was home for 668 Jews. Samber, like Lviv, was occupied by Germans by June 1941, and pogroms were carried out against the Jews. And in summer 1941, the Jewish registry was completed, and Jews were required to wear Baron's Star of David, and so on. And I don't have time to read it, all this information, but I must say that there is a few evidence his activity, anti-Jewish activity during one anti-Jewish action on summer 1942. That Paul Bloom, it's a Jew from the city, from the street, who had attended the gymnasium, by the way, with Temnik, saw him, and it's a quote, commanding Ukrainian unit that took part in the extermination together with the SS in Samber. Another witnesses, Itzhak Klich, testified in 1964 that Temnik took part in action in Samber on August 4th and 6th, 1942. So he writes, he mentions it. I remember that the Temnik and the Ukrainian, a native of the region, whom I met before the war, participated in those actions. My brother-in-law had a look, saw him, Temnik, in SS uniform. I know that Temnik moved to the Gestapo in Drohobycz. I also know that at the end of the war, Temnik moved to the Germany and later to Canada. During the war, at the end of quote, during the war, Samber was the site of numerous actions of extermination, and it's very hard to understand in which another actions was he taken part or not he taken part. But this evidence shows us that at least at one he was involved.
Yuri, take into consideration your time.
Yes, I know. Thank you so much.
You have only 20 minutes, and maybe it would be good if you can begin to conceptualize, to summarize.
Okay. I will conclude that probably about his activity. Such type of collaborators, I call them political activists who were ready to cooperate with Germans in any way during Nazi occupation. This type of Ukrainian nationalists, like mainly group, another members, for instance, of NTSNP, this is Russian nationalists from different parts of Russian Federation, Belarus as well. And maybe we will discuss a little bit later, because I do not have time. I hope that I will have more. at least. But Temnik was an activist of O&M who actively took part in extermination of Jews in his native city. He knows his neighbors, his real neighbors. And after World War II, he had option to move to Canada and to live there without any problems. He didn't change his name, and he died in his bed. And another point is that he actively took part in O&M post-war diaspora life. He took part in these rituals, political and military rituals, and he died with. He had quite big family, and he died in 1992. That's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Yuri. Before finishing this panel, let me thank you, Yuri, and thank Kai and Omer for the talks.